This is an ABC News special report. Pope Francis in America. Now reporting from Washington, D.C., George Stephanopoulos.
Welcome back to our live coverage of the Pope's visit to America. It's been a magnificent morning here in Washington, D.C. The Pope welcomed to the White House by President Obama. And what you see right there, he's just completed a meeting with the president in the Oval Office, one-on-one with the president. He's about to depart the White House in his Popemobile, a specially outfitted Jeep Wrangler, for this parade down Constitution Avenue. I think you see it right there in the back, about to round the corner. The Pope going to be greeted by a crowd of thousands out there on Constitution Avenue. Cecilia Vega is out there, a lot of anticipation.
Oh, George, you have no idea. And it's funny, all morning long we've been hearing people singing and cheering in anticipation of the Pope's arrival. But now that we are literally just minutes, maybe seconds away, this crowd here is quiet. They are silent. They cannot wait. I asked one woman earlier this morning, why is it worth standing out here all night long since midnight when the Pope is going to go by you just for even a brief second? Just to be in his presence, she said, is a blessing and is something that is life-changing for this family. People out here have come from not just all over the United States, George, they're coming from all over the world. And this is a crowd that is largely Latino, I can tell you. There is a real sense of pride among Latinos when it comes to this specific Pope. He is a representation of them and for them, but he speaks directly to them. They've been telling me out here. The chant that we're hearing on the streets this morning, Papa Francisco, Pope Francis. They have a name for him, an adoration of him, and a love for him. He must be getting close, George. We're a couple of blocks away because the crowd is starting to get loud here.
He has just turned the corner outside of the White House in the Jeep Wrangler Popemobile, waving to the crowds. And how right you are, Cecilia, this first Latin American Pope who wants to reach out and touch that immigrant church, spoke from the White House this morning saying he comes to America as an immigrant himself. And you see him greeting the crowds now lining Constitution Avenue. Father Jim Martin, American Magazine, this is one of his favorite parts of the job.
He loves this. He loves meeting people, and as you can see, they removed the glass on the sides. This is the same Popemobile he used in Cuba. He wants to get close to people, and sometimes people hand out babies and even, coffee and food and things like that for him to enjoy.
One accommodation, removing that glass on the side. But I want to bring in Pierre Thomas as we continue to look at these pictures of the Pope going down. You see those Secret Service agents running by the side of the Popemobile as well. And Pierre, no, I'm not going to go to you, Pierre, because the Pope's about to kiss a baby. The Secret Service agents actually went out and grabbed the baby for him and gave him a chance. They're doing double duty today, Pierre.
Exactly.
And the security all across Washington, D.C., unprecedented.
Unprecedented. You can see literally along with the Secret Service officers, there are police along the route every few feet or so. I just spoke to a senior official a little while ago who said that they are looking forward to the possibility that he may actually get out of that Popemobile and touch some of the people. Quote, with this Pope, you never know. So
sure
they are prepared.
Like he's prepared to do that as well. He's being accompanied to the Popemobile by the Archbishop of Washington, Carnival Worrell, and he is on his way to St. Matthew's Cathedral, where he'll be meeting with his bishops here in the United States, Father Martin, and he'll pray with them and preach to them.
He will. It's a traditional thing he does in each country. It's an opportunity for him to speak to the bishops who are under his care. I mean, in a sense, it is their boss coming to talk to them, and he will obviously highlight some of the themes of his papacy, encourage them to continue on his work.
This is the only event, George, in Washington where you don't need a ticket. Mm-hmm. Everything else is individual tickets that have been handed out by someone in authority, either the Congress, the president, or the church. So this is the moment for the average citizen to get to see the Pope close up.
But you did need a lot of determination
yes,
to wait out in that line. And Cecilia, now as the Pope is moving his way towards you, what are you seeing? What are you hearing?
George, we can see the motorcade coming our way. They're just a couple of blocks away now. And I can tell you, every camera, every cell phone out pointed direction. People are so excited. This excitement is just infectious, George. I was out there. Francis became that feeling that I had that night is the feeling that I have out here right now. There is a sense of pride, there is a sense of devotion, and there is a real excitement, George. I can't even think of another word to describe it. It's just overwhelming.
And you can see it, Cecilia, reflected on the Pope's face, Matthew Dowd. He seems to be drawing a lot of energy from this.
Yeah, total, obviously, Pope of the people. We've talked to a pastor. The other thing I find fascinating is the Jeep that he's in, which is like an iconic vehicle that the GIs used in World War II.
Made in Toledo, Ohio.
But owned by the same company that owns Fiat, that he was riding in earlier.
Pope making a statement with his vehicles, finally coming around to the other side of the avenue and getting a big cheer there as well. What a special feeling for a faithful Catholic Father Martin to lock eyes.
Oh, absolutely. I saw him in an audience in St. Peter's Square a year ago, and it's very moving. I mean, you are seeing the successor of St. Peter, the Vicar of Christ, but, you know, it's important to remember that for all the political discussions that are going around, this is a pastor visiting his flock, basically, and so he is coming as a father to spread the gospel for them.
And it's fascinating. Watch as he moves his way down there. It's almost as if he's lighting up the crowd when he waves to them.
And they're lighting up him, too. He loves this most of all. And I think, you know, we'll see someone who will be continually kind of welcomed into American society. And he himself, you know, will learn a lot about the American people through these encounters.
He's made a special point, Koki, of reaching out to nuns as well in this country, especially, remember, in that ABC special.
Well, that's right. In the ABC special where he said to a nun who had been very helpful to immigrants on the border, he made a point, first of all, of calling on her and then telling her, I love you. But this comes after a period where, before Francis was Pope, there was something of an investigation of American nuns by the Vatican, and it was a very, very painful period. And this Pope essentially just dropped it. In April, it was over. And the religious women are not crowing about it because they don't want to have any problems, but they know that in the end this Pope came down on their side because they work in the margins. That's what they do. They say that is our gift to the church. And this Pope is very interested in people who work in the margins of society.
Cecilia, we see that motorcade working its way down Constitution Avenue.
George, you know that at a baseball game where they do the wave in the stadium, that's what's happening out here as the Pope makes his way towards us. The crowd, the cheers are getting louder. From what I can see, my vantage point, the arms are popping up in the air. Every single person out here trying to get a picture of this Pope. And just look how deep that crowd is. I mean, I'm talking 60 people, at least hundreds of people deep. But this crowd that you see here along this doesn't show you even the beginning of it. Behind us, there is still an entire group of people who couldn't get in because they shut the access down about an hour before the motorcade started. We are talking thousands and thousands of people out here, George.
And one little girl just got a very special greeting from the Pope. She popped out of the barricade, and the Secret Service agents brought her up as well for a hug and a kiss. You get rewarded for bravery there, I guess, by jumping out in front and getting to see the Holy Father. And my goodness, look at the arsenal behind him. All of those cars, all of those ambulances, all the police doing so much to protect this leader of 1.2 billion Catholics around the world.
George, it's one of those moments that we forget for a moment that what divides us. It's not red and blue Catholics. It's not certain ethnic Catholics. It's what unites us. And that's actually one of the great things about this moment, because he's one of the few leaders in the world that actually has a unifying persona.
I think actually one of his most beautiful quotations is, we must regain the conviction that we need one another, that we have a shared responsibility for others and the world, and that being good and decent are worth it.
Looks like the Pope is motioning to someone right there, maybe encouraging to cheer even louder for him. Terry Moran, I know you're on the phone right now. So far, we've seen the Pope kiss a baby and hug a little girl, and you have some insight into how those kids are chosen, as it looks like someone else is going to be brought to him right now.
That's right. Well, he chooses them, and I think he chooses them based on both the enthusiasm of the families, but also you see he will often reach out, and we've seen these pictures, to the little children with disabilities or who are clearly needing some kind of medical attention. But he has one sort of kid fetcher if you will. The strapping man who is designated as the guy who goes gets the kids in Cuba, where it's smothering tropical heat in Cuba. By the time he got back on the plane after fetching all those kids, he was just drenched. It was
that
nice job to have that.
That last little baby he kisses, one cool customer, never let go of the pacifier.
Yeah, the pacifier was in. The pacifier stayed in.
Did not go anywhere.
Not all of the babies are always happy. You see,
I wouldn't think so.
bursting into tears.
Well, it's a stranger.
You know, you're talking about him as a bridge builder. One of his traditional titles is Pontifex Maximus, the great bridge builder. And this is someone who really is trying to bring people together.
It's interesting now. It seems like they've actually increased the security on either side of the Pope as he's moved to the middle of the avenue, a little bit away from the crowds, taking no chances at all. But Cecilia, I want to go back to you now. You know, the noise is deafening to us here in the studio. I can only imagine what it feels like and sounds like on Constitution Avenue. Cecilia probably can't hear me because it's so loud.
You guys want to take us? We're right here.
Go ahead, Cecilia.
George, this is the moment they have been waiting for. This is the moment we have been waiting for. I have to tell you, being out here, even as a journalist, this is infectious, and you cannot help but be excited and be so proud to be a part of this. It's the people here are so excited, and just look at the Pope. Here he is, right here in front of us. Hard to believe. I see a group of nuns. These nuns are just going crazy. They're waving the Argentinian flag, and they cannot get enough of this. And George, up close and personal, it looks like Pope Francis is enjoying this just as much as every single person out here.
He got that thumbs up. I wonder if that was for the Argentinian flag at that moment. Pierre Thomas.
George, I'm struck by these iconic images. You have the Secret Service doing the role that they normally reserve for the President of the United States. They're taking this very seriously. There's a mixture of Secret Service agents with the Vatican security protecting the Pope. And law enforcement officials say there's layers of security that you don't see, SWAT teams at the ready. But right now, I think they're just taking it all in, trying to make sure that everything goes smoothly. And right now, they're very happy so far, George.
And Father Martin, we saw Cardinal Wuerl there on the back seat of the Popemobile, the Archbishop of Washington, with the Pope there. It seemed to me as he was almost holding back tears as he was taking in all the excitement. This is a big moment for an Archbishop of a town to welcome the Pope to his town.
Absolutely. It's a very exciting thing for any Archbishop to have the Pope come to his town. And, you know, this is the Archbishop seeing his people, seeing his flock turn out with all this enthusiasm and with so much, press about people leaving the church. Here's the Archbishop seeing his city turn out for the Pope.
You know, we see all this excitement here. What happens in the days after a visit like this in congregations and communities? How do they draw on the feeling we're seeing today?
Well, that's a very good question. The elation, I think, is a sign for people that the Catholic Church has something to offer. And so in that excitement, we see a kind of invitation from God. But I think, once people are able to read his talks and his homilies and reflect on them a little bit, I think it'll help deepen it a little bit.
Also here in this archdiocese, they have launched something called Walk with Francis, and thousands and thousands of people have signed up, either to perform an act of service or to pray or to be in the community in some fashion. And I think that will continue. I mean, they've got their names.
And this is the kind of moment for the people who are there, Matthew Dowd, a moment they will never forget. I remember speaking just days ago with William Bratton, the police commissioner of New York City, who, when Pope Paul VI came to his hometown of Boston 50 years ago, he was able to have the Pope shake his father's hand. His father would not wash his hand before he was able to go home and touch his sick wife, as well as.
There's certain moments in people's lifetimes that if you pick them out, whether it was presidents or popes or whatever, that people remember for the rest of their life. And actually, it changes many people. It changes many of the things they want to do in their life. I would guess that many people watching this and there will decide there's a mission they want to do that otherwise they wouldn't have been touched on.
And I think it could change Cardinal Wuerl. I'm not saying that he hasn't been very devoted to his flock. He has been. But when you see this kind of reaction of your people it sends you a message that you really need to, stay with the program.
It's also a reminder, I think, to people that holiness is not something far off.
Right.
Holiness resides in individuals. It's a real thing. The Pope is not a fictional character. We've heard about him. We've heard his talks. And here he is coming to see you. And it's also, like Jesus, kind of being incarnated. I mean, it's something that happens in our daily lives and in our ordinary lives. It's not far off from us.
The Pope has made his way down Constitution Avenue, past the crowds. He's going to be making his way now to St. Matthew's Cathedral in downtown Washington, where he will meet with his bishops. You see them gathered there for noonday prayer, also to hear homily from the Pope as well.
This cathedral, of course, is a beautiful Byzantine mosaic-lined cathedral with the evangelists Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John around the ceiling. But we most remember it from President Kennedy's funeral, which is where most Americans saw it for the first time.
We're learning now also, as we keep our cameras on St. Matthew's, of the gifts that the President gave to the Holy Father. One of them was a sculpture of an ascending dove, international symbol of peace and the Christian symbol of the Holy Spirit. And the second one, Cokie, I wanted you to respond to this. A key from the Maryland home of Elizabeth Ann Seton, dedicated to serving those most in need. Mother Seton was the first native-born American to be declared a saint.
She was a remarkable woman from the early 19th century who converted to Catholicism and then founded a religious order and is credited with starting the parochial school system in the United States. Now, that makes me crazy, frankly, the way history books say. And then she started the parochial school system. Like, was that hard? Did it take any effort? Was there time involved? But she did it. She sometimes was at odds with her superiors, but she soldiered on, and she not only created the schools, she had a free school immediately, as well as the school that children paid for. But she also created hospitals and orphanages around the country, traveling herself in the early 19th century as a woman to do that. She had her own children. She had been married. Her own children joined the order, some of them, but she said to the bishop, "My duties as a mother come first, and then my duties to you."
And the Pope will be canonizing it, Father Junipero Serra, tonight when he celebrates Mass at the Shrine of the Immaculate Conception in Washington. He is now meeting with his bishops in downtown Washington. We're going to have much more coverage of the Pope's visit. David Muir will be live with World News Tonight from Washington. And of course, when the Pope becomes the first Pope ever to address a joint session of the Congress, we will be back all day tomorrow. And of course, on Good Morning America, thank you for staying with us.
This has been a special report from ABC News.